in studio, we've got SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeje and Sophie Mokoena, who's SABC News' international editor. Just looking at those interactions, giving perhaps the final thoughts as we begin to wrap up this discussion on what's taken place today and what can be learned.
Yeah, look, Mzwai, during the apartheid era, during the brutality, apart from liberation movements, apart from activists, the clergy were also agitators, isn't it? And Tutu himself was central in that role. Talk to us about that period.
You'd remember, I think, one of the most memorable periods during the involvement, when he wrote, I think, the letter to the apartheid regime, warning them about what was to happen given the volatility of the situation. So tells you plain that he was someone who was not only about religious issues, but was deeply rooted in the struggle of the ordinary men and women in the street. Of course, we've spoken about his funeral, basically depicting that. So, he's not the only one, but he is actually the face of what happened. And we know the role that his mentor, Trevor Huddleston, played in terms of making sure that there's justice, that everyone is really, really free. So there's a lot that anyone coming after him should learn. Even those who are in politics, they can learn a lot from what he did. Of course, there would be things here and there that he would not perhaps do very well, like you would see some of the politicians would not have been happy about, but that is the nature of the struggle. If you're involved in something, you are bound to step on somebody else's toes, but that is natural.
Yeah, he didn't mind stepping on people's toes, isn't it? Sophie, with regards to, he was part of this influential group called the Elders, started back in 2007. Back then it was Nelson Mandela, the former US President Jimmy Carter, Kofi Annan, Mary Robinson as well, where we're going to try and get you a sense. We spoke to Mary Robinson last night as well. Great insight. Talk to us about how influential he was within this influential group that was called the Elders.
Well, I think he was the glue holding this group together. We often talk about Madiba because many, even young people, relate much better with Madiba because, Madiba. But these wise leaders knew very well who could lead them better when they started this organization. And I think choosing him to be the first chair of the Elders during the inaugural meeting of the Elders was a wise move because they knew that he can relate to different characters. As you look at the Elders, you have Graça Machel, a former activist, a child rights activist. You have a former UN boss, the late Kofi Annan, a very formidable leader who only indicated that him being in office as the Secretary General of the United Nations, his regret is failure to deal with Rwanda. So there's weaknesses there. You had Madiba. You know, Madiba, for some of us who have been able to interact with Madiba, Madiba was very humble, but Madiba could be very feisty. And therefore, you needed people who understood or who can handle Madiba. You had people like Jimmy Carter, a former leader of the United States of America, much as the U.S. In later years did support the struggle, but we had our own challenges with the United States of America. Some of the ANC members are still classified as terrorists in terms of the U.S. administration, and therefore there's that kind of love and hate relationship, and therefore you needed a person who can transcend all these challenges, and that organization was just that. And for me, Blaine, we talk about this formal engagement, their activities, but we have lighter side of these leaders. And for me, the music, the music. I love music, and it can calm you down. And Madiba, I know his favorite hymn, you know, Liza Lisidinga Lakho, but not the formal one, you know, when the ANC was launched, you know, the Methodist hymn with movements. And then you have Noyana as well. Noyana loved by both Archbishop and Madiba, and they would, you know, join the choirs, Imilonjigantu Gospel, Soweto Gospel Choir. And then we had Mama Winnie on the other hand, who was a member of the Methodist Church, who really enjoyed Nzulu. So I just want us to take a breather. Let's listen to one of the hymn that Desmond Tutu liked so much, and that is by Imilonjigantu, Tato Yahau.
we should definitely have a little block on the side to show what happens when that song plays. But Sophie, got a groove back.
But into the spirit of things.
Yes.
Into the spirit of things.
One of his favorite songs, Sophie.
Yeah, you know that song, Joki Muhlolo Hlolo, Haki Ratwa Lina. You know, when you are a sinner and you accept that much as I am a sinner, I'm just surprised by the love of God. And that's what Desmond Tutu was saying, and he liked that song. And of course, the other one, Tato Yahau, in other words, let thy be done. You know, whatever happens to me, whatever I have to do, my calling, let it be. Let God dictate and give me guidance. And those were the two songs that I knew very well. You know, these elderly people, I was very fortunate as a former political reporter to follow them all the time and assigned to do veterans. And I had to find a way to love my work and interact with them. And I had to learn some stuff behind the scenes. And these are information that I think one collected while I was working. I mean, Madiba would dance, you know, when there was a Noyana Pezul. And like I said, Mama Winnie would also really get into that spiritual mode when there was a Mzulu. So, yeah, it's Imilo Njigantu choir. The conductor there, it was Mary Mqatan, the late former Mary, and she was the former secretary or the PA of former President Nelson Mandela, and the husband continuing with the choir right now. And Imlo Njigantu was down there, you saw the choir singing those songs. And also, they used to like Soweto gospel choir, and
So he had a different way of doing things, isn't it? And especially when it comes to the liberation struggle as well. He always spoke about discipline. He always spoke about negotiations. He always spoke about reconciliation and peace. That was a strategy or method that he used that he felt could make the greatest impact. What did other politicians think about this strategy that he took?
Well, and it's so interesting, Blaine, that his religious affiliation or his politics, if you may, was so intertwined with that of Madiba. In fact, there's something that just comes to mind immediately now. We have just concluded December, and then Madiba left us in December 2013 on the 5th, and Tutu left us in December 2021 on the 26th. So clearly that intertwinement remains, but of course that tells you about the kind of a person that he was, and of course how he wanted to conduct the struggle. And generally I would say politicians acknowledged him, even those who may have been ruffled in terms of their feathers. At the end of the day, they said, we understood why.
And I think, Mzwai, when you talk about the political challenges playing, you have people who have strong views. When he insisted that the late Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela must apologize because of the death of Stompie, and you know the Mandela Club that was involved in terms of finally ending Stompie's life. And Mama Winnie was very aggrieved. Mama Winnie is a human being. She had all the right to be aggrieved. The same with the Arch, had the right perhaps to see things differently. But you find a situation in the country where people are holding grudges. I have worked with Mama Winnie for quite a long time. I know issues that she felt strong about, but I don't think she could have, during this moment, celebrated the passing on of the Arch. The same with the Arch. There was no way the Arch would have celebrated the passing on of Mama Winnie. And you'd recall the tribute that we played earlier on, where Mama Winnie's former PA, Auzoto Azwane, was talking. I even used a visual where Mama Winnie and the Arch were leading a march. So in life, it's normal. You hold different views. Otherwise, we are not homogeneous. We can't all agree. And sometimes it gets heated. And it is understandable. But as a country, we must learn not to be too factional in terms of our views. Differ, stand your ground, stick to your principle, but that should not make you to hate someone.
Thank you very much both for your time. Sophie Mokoena, International SABC News Editor, and Mzwandile Mbeje, Political Editor, joining us in studio there. As we wrap up, we are going to take a look at what you've been saying in response to our question about what you remember about Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. We can see a message from Megan Barnes from Australia with love. Thank you, Arch, for our friendship. Let's see what else you've been sharing with us as the SABC News channel. That's from President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying that he was not content to decry apartheid at conferences or benefit concerts or international fora. He was there with freedom fighters confronting the regime and comforting its victims. He was not content to preach about social justice from the pulpit. Hashtag RIP Desmond Tutu.
Well, the next one is from Musi Maimane. He says that Archbishop Tutu was an incredible South African, a moral giant, a leader, a true reconciler. He was guided always by love. May he join the giants of faith. May the Lord welcome him home. And the timeless words of, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." The next one says, from the South African government, as we mourn the passing of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu, we also celebrate the powerful and uplifting impact that he had on our country. He will be remembered for his dedication to the end, to end apartheid, healing our nation, and advancing social justice.
Right, and that's from SABC News. Representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama Godab Dorji has called on the international community to look into the matter between China and His Holiness, accusing China of dictating relations between the Tibetan leader and other countries. So those are some of what's happening on social media in terms of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. Thank you for being with us as we say Lala Ngoxolo to Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. Kawe Lama Kawe. Thanks for being with us as Glenn and I have spent the last few hours.
8 hours.
You're counting? I didn't even notice. A very good afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed. No doubt to Mzwandile Mbeje as well as Sophie Mokoena. The better minds here on set, no doubt, together with Nzinga, helping us through the last 8 hours to make sense of the life and times of Desmond Tutu, and maybe in his passing, from this life, some of his life lessons can be passed on to us.